Waking up in the Paleolithic. Picture this: you open your eyes and the world is silent, raw and alive. No hum of electricity, no walls, no voice calling your name, just open sky, rough earth, and the burning breath of the African savanna. You are naked, alone, vulnerable. The air smells of dust and distant rain. The sun is already sharp, painting long shadows across tall, swaying grasses. There's no shelter above you, no shoes on your feet, no memory of how you got here. Just your modern brain, wired for schedules and screens, suddenly dumped into a world where the only calendar is the migration of beasts, and the only clock is the position of the sun. This isn't a weekend camping trip. This isn't reality TV, where help arrives after a dramatic cut. This is 50,000 years ago, and you are prey. We often romanticize this life. Hunter-gatherers silhouetted against firelight, sleeping under stars, eating what they kill. We picture ourselves adapting with ease, thriving in nature like wild wolves who simply forgot they were wild. But that's a fantasy. The real Paleolithic was brutal. Every hour was a wager against extinction. You're not a blank slate says, or you're human. But the kind of human raised on grocery stores and GPS, not on migration routes and silent stalking. Your brain is a marvel of evolution, but it's been rewired by comfort, and comfort will kill you here. Before you even worry about food, fire or warmth, your first job is simple. Stay alive. That rustling in the grass, it's not the wind. Out here, shadows have teeth. Paleontologists believe the extinct short-faced hyena, Pachycracuta brevirostris, once roamed this land. It stood as tall as a lion and had a jaw strong enough to crush bone, and maybe your skull. Unlike today's scavengers, it was a predator, one that could envelop a human head in a single bite. Every nerve in your body tightens, every instinct screams, your heart pounds, not just because you're afraid, but because that fear is ancient. It's built into you. Your ancestors felt it too, in moments like this, when every crack of a twig meant the difference between life and death. And here's the terrifying truth. They were better at this than you. They knew the rhythms of the land. They read the tilt of bird wings and the direction of broken grass. They saw, heard, smelled more than you ever will. You squint at the horizon and hope. They would already be moving, calculating wind, cover, escape. In this world, your intelligence must sprint to catch up with instincts that took millennia to hone. One hesitation, and you're gone. So you crouch low, you breathe shallow. You listen like your life depends on it, because it does. Welcome to the Paleolithic. The first hour. The first hour isn't about bravery. It isn't about fire, food, or crafting clever tools. The first hour is about not dying. You crouch beneath the tall, rustling grass. Your breath comes shallow, each inhale sharp with dust and tension. There's no phone to call for help, no backpack of supplies, no voice telling you what to do. You're alone in a world that doesn't care if you live another minute. The air hums with the possibility of predators. In this place, survival begins not with action, but with awareness. Every whisper of wind through the acacia leaves feels like a threat. Every shadow stretching across the earth holds potential teeth. You want to believe you're at the top of the food chain, but here you're not even near the middle. Your modern mind races to make sense of the scene. You scan the horizon, squinting at a distant shape. Is it a stone or something watching you? This hesitation could be fatal. You weren't raised for this. Paleolithic humans were born into it. From the moment they could walk, they learned to read the world like a language. The tilt of an ear, the stillness of birds, the rhythm of hoofbeats on dry earth. All clues, all critical. Anthropologist Clint Janulis notes that even modern hunter-gatherer children develop an intuitive ability to sense animal behavior, to distinguish threat from safety long before they speak in full sentences. You, however, were raised on screens, not tracks. You've inherited the brain of your ancestors, but not their training. You see a shape, they see a pattern. You see a bush, they see an ambush. Somewhere out there, beyond your range of certainty, could be a spotted hyena, already tracking your scent. And if it's not the living predator you should fear, it's the ghost of one, the extinct short-faced hyena, Pachycracuta brevirostris, a lion-sized nightmare with a crushing jaw that could enclose a human skull. Fossil evidence suggests it wasn't merely a scavenger, it was a bone-crushing ambush predator. To early humans, it was the soundless terror in the night. The wind changes, you freeze, Your muscles tremble, not from movement, but from instinctual memory. The ancient part of your brain, the amygdala, screams in the language of adrenaline and cortisol. Danger. Anxiety tightens your chest, sharpens your hearing, focuses your vision. This is what it was built for. We think of anxiety as a curse, a modern affliction born of deadlines and traffic jams. But out here, in the birthplace of that emotion, it's your greatest weapon. It's the reason your ancestors lived long enough to pass on their genes. Anxiety made them hesitate at the right time, made them run faster, hide smarter, listen longer. But there's a cost. That edge cuts both ways. Too much panic and you're paralyzed. Too little and you're dead. Balance is everything. Your body isn't just reacting to this world, it's remembering it. Beneath the skin of every modern human is a creature that once survived here. The question is, can you remember fast enough to matter? No tools, no shelter, no help. Only your mind, only your fear. Only the clock ticking down the most dangerous hour of your life. Shelter, the desperate need. The sun dips lower. The light turns gold, then grey, then cold, and so do you. The African sky, once a dome of burning heat, now breathes frost through the grass. Without walls, without fire, without even fabric against your skin, your body begins to remember something older than language, the ache of exposure, the danger of night. You need shelter. Not eventually, not when you get around to it now, but where do you go? There's no tent to pitch, no tutorial to watch, no blueprint hiding in your memory. Your brain, brilliant and modern, is full of data, apps, and passwords. But it doesn't know where to find cover when the stars rise and the wind turns cruel. Our Paleolithic ancestors did. They didn't build cities, but they built security. They didn't have houses, but they had havens. Caves were the first sanctuaries, dark, dry hollows hidden in hillsides or at the base of ancient cliffs. Excavations across Europe, Africa, and Asia show layers of soot and stone, proof of long nights survived by flickering firelight, and when caves were scarce they looked up, toward overhanging cliffs that broke the wind and gave them a place to hide from the storm. But what about the cold, unrelenting north? There, early humans became architects of survival. They used what the Ice Age offered: mammoth bones, stacked and lashed into domes, draped in animal hides. Archaeologists uncovered one such shelter in Ukraine, constructed of over 100 mammoth skulls and bones, arranged into a circle insulated with fur and earth. No walls, just wisdom, no hammer, just memory passed through hands. You, on the other hand, have nothing. No bones, no hides, no cultural inheritance, just a frantic brain trying to reinvent architecture in real time, while your breath fogs and your fingers stiffen. The cold isn't just discomfort. It's danger. Ötzi the Iceman, frozen for over 5,000 years in an alpine tomb of ice, wore survival on his skin, a goat-hide coat, tight-fitting leggings of stitched leather, shoes woven from grass and deer hide. Every layer a shield, every stitch a strategy. He carried warmth, not just from materials, but from knowledge handed down through generations. You try to huddle beneath a tree, but the ground steals your heat. You press into a hollow, but every breeze cuts deeper. Without shelter, the night becomes a predator of its own, a slow creeping one that doesn't bite but drains. It doesn't roar but whispers through your bones. This is the quiet threat that killed as many as claws. And here's the brutal irony: the knowledge you need already existed, etched in the bones of ancestors who outwitted ice, wind, and winter. But you never inherited it. You never had to. Warm homes, weather apps, and synthetic jackets made sure of that. So now, stripped of everything but flesh and fear, you face the same choice they once did: find shelter or become a fossil. The Fire Challenge. The darkness arrives with silence. Not the peaceful quiet of sleep, but the suffocating stillness of a world without light, where every shadow might move, and every movement might kill. You huddle beneath a ledge, teeth chattering, skin numb, breath rising in trembling clouds, and you wish for one thing: fire. Not a campfire, not warmth for comfort or flickering romance. You wish for fire the way a drowning man wishes for air. Because out here, fire is survival. It is barrier, beacon, and blade. It keeps the cold from crawling into your bones. It keeps predators at bay, eyes glowing in the dark, waiting for your body to fall still. It turns raw flesh into food, bitter roots into nourishment. It is the line between life and death, but wanting fire and making it are worlds apart. You know the theory, rubbing sticks together, creating friction, a spark, a flame. You've seen it on TV, maybe read about it in books. But in the Paleolithic world, theory doesn't warm your fingers. You search for dry wood. Your fingers, clumsy from cold, fumble to shape a bow drill from a stick and vine. The spindle slips, the base splits, your palms burn but not with flame. Hours pass, the night deepens, hyenas call in the distance, close then closer. You're not failing because you're weak. You're failing because you're late to the knowledge. At Kubifora in Kenya, archaeologists uncovered ancient hearths, circles of scorched earth and ash layered through time. These weren't random fires. They were the result of refined technique, selecting the right wood, carving fireboards, crafting cordage. The people who made those fires weren't experimenting, they were remembering. Firemaking wasn't just a task, it was a ritual passed down across generations like sacred scripture. A child would watch a parent's hands shape a spindle. A teenager would learn to feel when the wood was dry enough, soft enough. An elder would teach the difference between smoke that means failure and smoke that means life. You have none of that. Not the instincts, not the materials, not the muscle memory. Even today, primitive skills instructors, trained and experienced, often struggle for hours to start a flame under perfect conditions. You're trying it exhausted, half-naked and alone. The odds are not with you. And yet, somewhere, in the marrow of your bones, there's a connection. Because when early humans first tamed fire, everything changed. They didn't just cook meat, they cooked ideas. Around those flames, language deepened. Stories were born, time slowed. Fire stretched the day into night, made safety possible in darkness, made the unknown something you could face with eyes open. Fire wasn't just a tool, it was the turning point of evolution. It gave us warmth, protection, and a reason to gather. It gave us memory. And now, in this cold moonlit moment, all you can do is try. Rub, blow, pray. You strike again, this time a wisp of smoke. Maybe hope, maybe not. Hunting and gathering, lost arts. You're starving now. The ache in your belly isn't just discomfort, it's urgency. Your body is whispering warnings, and your mind is starting to blur with fatigue. You must eat, but in this world there is no refrigerator, no convenience store, not even a berry bush you can safely trust. We often imagine prehistoric hunting as heroic, lone warriors taking down mammoths with sharpened spears and bare grit. But that's a fantasy. In reality, hunting was never a solo mission. It was strategy, timing, and deep ancestral wisdom passed down over thousands of campfires. You have none of that. You don't even have a spear. Even with a weapon, you're clumsy. The animals are fast, agile, and attuned to every shift in the wind. You, by contrast, make noise with every step. You don't know how to track prints, how to read bent grass or scat. The skills you need were once taught from childhood. How to flank an animal, how to drive it toward a trap, how to wait silently for hours. And then there's gathering, which seems safer until you realize it's deadlier. The land is filled with plants, roots, and berries. Some are food, some are poison. And the difference between life and death is often color, scent, or season. Prehistoric people in what is now Israel once consumed over 50 species of wild plants, each one carefully learned, tested, remembered. You reach for a seed pod that looks promising, not knowing that Jequirity seeds, which are small and glossy red, contain one of the most toxic proteins on Earth. A single seed, crushed and swallowed, can shut down your organs. You don't know which leaves soothe the stomach and which cause hallucinations. You don't know which mushrooms are edible and which melt your liver from within. Back then, survival required not just caution, but inherited knowledge, passed down in stories, mimed in action, carved into memory. And if you think your hunger can be solved by catching something smaller, a bird, a rabbit, even a frog, you'll face another brutal truth. These creatures are experts in escape. You are not. You lack traps, nets, slings, and most of all, the patience to wait. Your body, still soft from modern comforts, isn't conditioned for this relentless hunger. But those who came before you were hardened by it. They developed a rhythm with the land. Hunting and gathering weren't skills, they were instincts, rituals embedded in the community, knowledge etched in the bones of the tribe. Here in the Paleolithic, food isn't a right, it's a reward, earned only by those who knew how to ask the land without offending it. You are not yet among them, and your stomach growls louder. Invisible killers. It doesn't come with a roar. It doesn't chase you through the trees or scream in the night. It comes quietly, on the edge of a mosquito's whisper, in the water you drank from the stream, in the meat you didn't cook long enough. No claws, no fangs, just a fever that blooms behind your eyes. Just your body slowly turning against itself. You're sick. In the prehistoric world, illness wasn't understood. There were no names for bacteria, no maps of the immune system. But the consequences were immediate. A single scratch from a branch, if left untreated, could fester. A minor cough could become a death sentence. And parasites. They were always watching, waiting. Hookworms, round bendworms, lice, fleas. Invisible to the eye, but merciless. Your skin itches. You scratch, not knowing that your nails carry more filth than you can see. There is no soap, no disinfectant. Your hands touch raw meat, dirt, blood, and then, without thought, your mouth. Infection finds its opening, it always does. The stream water seemed clear. You cupped it, grateful. But clarity is not purity. Microscopic killers, Giardia, Cryptosporidium, slide into your gut. Days later, your stomach clenches, your vision spins, and the world tilts. Diarrhea, dehydration, and delirium follow. And there's no rehydration therapy waiting, no hospital bed. In this ancient world, disease was constant. Not a wave, but a tide, always rising, always pulling. Tuberculosis left lesions in the bones of Neanderthals. Brucellosis, a disease from infected animals, caused fever and fatigue. Tooth abscesses could poison the bloodstream. And with no antibiotics, nothing stopped the march of infection once it began. But somehow, our ancestors survived. They didn't have pills or prescriptions. What they had was time and an immune system shaped by endless battles. Every exposure was a test. Those who lived passed their resilience to the next generation. Over millennia, the immune system became a war machine, evolving to remember threats, to launch defenses, to recognize friend from foe. Even fevers, though painful, were survival tools. A rise in temperature could slow viral replication. Sneezing, coughing, inflammation, all strategies in the body's ancient playbook. Not always enough, but sometimes just enough. Still, for the weak, the very young, or the unlucky, death often came without explanation. A fever in the night, a wound that wouldn't close, a breath that never returned to steady rhythm. And in the quiet after, there were no doctors, no death certificates, only grieving eyes and the need to move on, to survive the next wave. Today we take cleanliness for granted. We wash our hands without fear, we drink from taps. A scratch is an annoyance, not a death sentence. But back then, your greatest enemy was one you could never see, and it was everywhere. The tribe is everything. You are not alone, not truly, not ever. Even in the most ancient days, when danger crept in every shadow and death was a familiar companion, survival was never a solo act. One human in the wild is vulnerable, but a group is memory. A group is firelight and laughter and warning cries at dawn. A group is power. This is the truth written into our bones. We survived because we had each other. Paleolithic bands were small, 20, maybe 30 people at most. Just enough to share resources without exhausting them. Just enough to move as one through the vast and shifting world. Each person had a role. The old remembered, the young learned, the strong hunted, the nimble gathered. The observant watched the stars and the seasons and whispered when the rains would return. There was no hierarchy carved in stone, no thrones, no crowns, but there was structure, an unspoken rhythm shaped by respect, ability, and experience. The elders, those rare few who survived long enough to grey, were living libraries. They carried maps in their minds, of safe valleys, of bitter roots, of winters too cold to forget. Knowledge wasn't written down, it was sung, it was painted on cave walls, it was passed in stories told beneath the stars. Around the fire, the tribe became more than survival, it became memory. A mother hummed a lullaby that her mother once sang. A hunter mimicked the call of a beast no one dared approach. A child traced symbols in the dirt that would one day echo on the canyon walls. This was how we learned, not with textbooks, but with rhythm and image and voice. Storytelling wasn't a luxury, It was a tool, a tale of a man who strayed too far from camp and never returned, a warning wrapped in drama, a legend of the bear who could smell fear, a way to teach bravery and caution. Through stories we remembered what mattered most, when to move, what to eat, where danger slept. And music? Music was the heartbeat of the tribe. It brought rhythm to ritual, unity to movement, comfort to grief. A simple flute made from a hollow bone could mimic bird song. A stretched hide could become a drum that echoed the pulse of the earth itself. In music, the tribe found a way to speak what words could not. Even art, besmeared with ochre on cave walls or carved into ivory beads, was more than decoration. It was a shared vision, a collective language. A handprint on stone said, "I was here, I belonged." A painted hunt preserved the memory of victory and warned of the cost of failure. To be cast out was the closest thing to a death sentence. Alone, there was no watchful eye to spot the panther in the brush, no helping hand when your ankle twisted on loose rock, no warmth when the night wind turned cruel. But within the tribe there was safety, not from danger, that was always present, but from despair. Because someone would notice if you limped, someone would share their food, even if they had little, someone would sing to your child when you were too tired to speak. This is what made us human, not just tools, not just fire, but each other. Modern advantages and fatal weaknesses. You sit beneath the broken canopy of a thorny tree, breath shallow, skin scratched, feet aching and bare against the harsh African soil. Your body, young, fed, full of information, is in perfect health. Your brain, a marvel of evolution. But none of that is helping you now. Here in the Paleolithic world, your modern advantages are beginning to show their cracks. And those cracks could kill you. Because while your brain is a product of 300,000 years of evolution, largely unchanged from the minds of your ancient ancestors, your instincts are not. You know how to navigate cities, not stars. You know how to recharge a phone, not a fire. You know your food comes in packets, your water from a tap, your warmth from a switch. But here, that knowledge is useless. Your body was built for hardship. Your ancestors ran barefoot across deserts, chased prey for hours, carried infants through storms. They endured hunger, trauma, and death over and over. And you get a headache when you skip breakfast. There's no judgment here. This is not your fault. Modernity is a spell, and a powerful one. Technology gave us insulation from danger, but it cost us resilience. It gave us comfort, but dulled our survival instincts. It taught us to fear boredom more than the dark, to trust convenience over awareness, to value convenience over comprehension. Your brain still has the wiring to scan for threats, to sense patterns, to read the twitch of a predator's eye, but that wiring has been overrun with likes, alerts, screens, and overstimulation. Your instincts have been hijacked. Instead of listening for rustling leaves, your ears strain for a buzz in your pocket that will never come. And physical toughness, that too is a casualty. You can deadlift, sure, maybe run a mile, but none of that compares to the daily grind of Paleolithic life, of hauling water, chasing game, sleeping on stone, rising in the cold. The discomfort here is constant. There's no rest, no pause, no outlet. Environmental awareness, gone. You walk past poison berries. You miss the snake coiled in the grass. You can't tell if the wind signals rain or danger. Every sound is either too much or too little, and you can't tell which. You know the names of constellations but can't navigate by them. You know organic but not edible. And yet, your brain could learn again. That's the fragile hope buried in all this. Modern humans are not less evolved, we're differently evolved. We've traded skills for systems. That trade made cities, science, medicine. But here in the Paleolithic, that trade is a debt. And it's time to pay up. You're brilliant but fragile, knowledge-rich but instinct-poor. Your strengths are real, but so are your fatal weaknesses. The old world doesn't care what century you're from, it just asks, can you survive the night? Could you survive? So now comes the question you've been circling like a predator in the dark. Would you make it? Could you actually survive, not for a few hours or days, but truly live in this world of stone and hunger and silence? The harsh truth, probably not. And that's not just dramatic storytelling. That's the verdict from anthropologists, survival experts, and historians who've studied the Paleolithic world in every grim detail. Dropped into the Ice Age or early Savannah alone, even in peak health, most modern humans wouldn't last a week. The environment doesn't offer second chances. One wrong step, literally, and you're bitten, burned, broken. Eat the wrong berry, drink the wrong water, misread a cloud. You don't learn from these mistakes. You die from them. Because survival here is not about strength, intelligence, or even luck. It's about timing, tribe, and tuning. You need to be tuned to the rhythms of this world. The way shadows move before a storm, the subtle silence before a lion strike, the feel of damp moss that tells you where water hides. You're not tuned, you're loud, and you smell like soap and sweat and chemicals. You don't know which routes to dig, which path avoids hyenas, which night sounds mean safety, and which means something just got very, very quiet. So what's your best shot? Adoption. If you had any realistic chance of long-term survival, it would be this: being found, spared, and accepted by an existing tribe of early humans. It's happened before. Modern humans have lived with uncontacted or indigenous groups and slowly adapted. But even then, it's a brutal learning curve. You'd have to shed everything you know, learn their rhythms, mimic their movements, prove your worth. And even then, you'd be a liability for a long time. Because in a world where every calorie counts, helping a stranger is an investment. And if you cost more than you give, that kindness won't last. There's no room for sentiment here, only survival. A child who can't keep up, a hunter who can't contribute, a mouth without a purpose, they don't last. You must become useful fast or disappear. And even if you're adopted, even if you're trained, even if you learn, the margin for error never widens. This world has no safeties, no reset buttons, no forgiving weather. The cold cuts through every excuse, the wild doesn't wait for you to catch up. There's no day off in the Paleolithic. So could you survive? Maybe, with help, with luck, with surrender. But only if you let go of everything modern life taught you about comfort, time, entitlement. Survival here is not a test, it's a sentence. And only the ones who truly listen to the land, who obey its cruelty, honour its patterns, and embrace its indifference, will live to see another sunrise, the oldest kindness. You sit beneath the stars, body worn, spirit stretched thin, but alive. The Paleolithic night hums around you, crickets singing in the dark, the distant call of an owl, the gentle crackle of fire hard won. Around you the flickering silhouettes of others, your tribe, not by birth, but by necessity. There's warmth here, not just from flame, but from something more ancient. The presence of others who choose not to leave you behind. This is not just about survival, it's about kindness, the oldest kind. Long before wheels, cities, or language itself, humans were already doing something extraordinary. They were caring for one another. In graves across the ancient world, burials of the injured, the elderly, the sick, we find the fingerprints of compassion, healed bones that should have been fatal, paralysis that should have meant death, and yet they lived. Because someone carried them, fed them, protected them. This wasn't strategy, this wasn't utility, it was empathy. And perhaps that, more than flint tools or fire, was our true evolutionary leap. Modern science praises innovation, the hand axe, the spear, the needle, but behind each invention was a community that supported the innovator. Behind every survival story was someone who didn't walk away. The greatest discoveries of early humans weren't just material, they were relational. And those relationships weren't perfect. Tribes fought, outsiders were feared. But still, within the circle of the known, there was tenderness. The way a child was rocked, the way stories were whispered by firelight, the way the old were listened to, even when their hands trembled too much to carve or hunt. You begin to understand adaptation wasn't just claws and teeth, it was culture. It was memory passed down not in books, but in murmurs. It was holding the line of survival together. In that distant time, you see the shape of your own heart, still beating in rhythm with theirs. Yes, modern life dulled the edge of our instincts. It softened our bodies, made our comforts into cages, but it also gave us time to remember, to look back, to ask, what kept us going when the world tried to erase us? And the answer isn't just flint or fire, it's kindness, the decision to carry the wounded, to feed the frail, to teach the child. That decision, small, quiet, and made again and again across millennia, is the reason you're here now. And in that realization, there's something sacred. You are not just a visitor in the past, you are its continuation. You belong to a long, unbroken chain of resilience, yes, but also of compassion. Our ancestors didn't just survive the Paleolithic, they made it human. Conclusion. Honouring the legacy, you are not here by accident. The ground beneath your feet was walked by people who had nothing and yet gave everything. They knew hunger intimately, knew the sting of ice in their marrow and the ache of injury with no cure. And still they endured. Still they chose to stay alive. You are the echo of those choices, not just the echo of their bodies, but of their spirit, their stubbornness, their fire, their hope. Look around you. Your world is filled with miracles, light at a switch, food on demand, maps in your palm, but none of it appeared from nothing. It all began with hands that dug, minds that wondered, hearts that believed the struggle was worth it. You are the descendant of survivors. They crossed mountains barefoot, faced beasts 10 times their size, buried children and still woke up to fight the next day. They had no safety net, no ambulance, no shelter, no guarantee, only each other, only the will to keep going. So when you feel small, when the weight of the modern world crushes your chest, remember this. Your blood remembers. Your bones remember. You come from those who looked extinction in the face and said, "Not today." They didn't just live through history, they made it possible. And now, standing in this strange, comfortable present, the question isn't whether you could survive what they did. That's not the point. The real question is, how will you honour them? Will you remember them only as statistics in dusty books? Will you reduce their lives to tools and timelines? Or will you pause just for a moment and feel what they felt? The fear, the hunger, the laughter by firelight, the whispered lullabies, the warmth of someone sharing the last scrap of meat. Will you remember the way they taught without words, loved without rules, grieved without rituals, but still carried forward? Your existence is proof of their victory, and their legacy is not finished. It lives in every act of care, in every shelter you build, every story you pass on, every moment you choose kindness over cruelty. To honour them is not to worship the past, it's to carry its wisdom forward, to protect the fragile, to help the wounded, to keep the fire burning even when the night feels endless. They gave you more than life. They gave you meaning. So close your eyes, let the wind carry the voices of your ancestors to you. Hear their footsteps behind yours, and walk forward, not alone, but with them. You're not the end of their story. You are the next chapter.